A little something like that. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome back to another guitar lesson. Last week we did some soloing tips for you guys wanting to get into playing lead guitar. This week I've got some acoustic tips for you. I think it's going to make your life a lot easier with a little bit of guidance. So hopefully this is going to help you out, and let's get started. Let's get into the lesson. So the first tip I have for you is to do with the C chord. Now when we learn acoustic, we usually learn our cowboy chords, right? We got our... Now, sooner or later, you're going to come across a chord called C add 9. And I think it maybe freaks out some beginner players at the start, but it really doesn't need to. So this is what I tell people when I'm teaching this, is we have kind of these two versions of C when we're playing acoustic guitar. We have kind of your typical, and then we have C add 9. So you can hear that. That's going to be the kind of the difference maker. So when do we use that is the question. Now certain songs are going to be using, they'll be using a G, a C, and a D maybe together, while other chords will maybe be using a C, an A minor, F major, G kind of deal. So in my opinion, if I have a G, C, D chord progression and I go, it sounds a little bit too kind of old school for me. So I like to substitute in the C add 9 instead of our typical C there. So the reason why this, in my opinion, sounds better in this case, well, there's a few reasons why I would recommend this. So if we go through these chords, we'll notice that my third finger stays in place that whole time. So when we're learning acoustic, I find this a really great way to start practicing your chord changes, because we can kind of keep this finger down. It's funny, a lot of times people, they want to lift it up regardless, but so we want to keep this down. We want to go minimal movement to the next chord, and it's sharing one of those same tones, so it almost kind of blends a little bit better than. So we got G, C, and D. Now on the contrary, if I, like I said before, if I have maybe like an A minor and an F major, so if we look at those chords, they're pretty similar to that, your typical C, not the C add 9. They're sharing many of the same notes, so that's why they kind of work a little better when so just a little tip for you. If you're practicing writing some chord progressions, or if you're looking up tab and you're not quite sure what to make of it, I would recommend using C add 9 when you're kind of using G, C, D, E minor, and use our regular C when we're playing with A minor, F, and so on. All right, next tip coming your way. So this one has to do with our strumming and how we hold our picks. So first of all, there's many different kind of widths and stiffnesses and shapes and everything else of picks. It's good to find one that you like. I like these Jazz 3 picks. They're a little smaller and stiff. I find they're more, I can get lots of nice dynamics with them. But that's not really what I want to talk about. A lot of times people aren't holding the pick correctly. So what we want to do is we want to take our pick and we want to have it pointing at the floor, the longer end here. We're going to take our thumb and we're going to put it running with the floor along this way, and we want to give it just a nice little pinch. Now everybody is a little bit different, so sometimes people will use 2 fingers, sometimes, whatever it may be, but Typically that's a fairly good rule, and we want to get a nice follow through when we do these strummings. I find a lot of the times people can do the chord part of playing guitar, but they're a little stiff with their strumming hands. So that's part of the tip. Now the next part of the tip is when we strum, we want to make it sound interesting. It's like when you get a teacher that's always talking monotone, but you just want to tone them out after a little while. If we play guitar, it really starts to get dull after a while. So you can really spice up the simplest chord progression, even that, just a G and a C, by targeting certain strings or certain notes instead of always hitting one or, all of them, I should say. So typically the rule of thumb is we want to kind of get that root note. So in this case, it's going to be that G. And then I want to kind of add in a little bit of flavor. Gotta get that flavor, right? Gotta get that extra flavor, that spicy seasoning in there. At the top, you just want to add in a little bit of that. And that creates a nice dynamic. We're not just going blah, So it's really important that we're thinking as much about our left hand and our right hand evenly, right? It's not all about the left hand. It's not all about the picking hand, but you can really make a simple chord progression sound a lot better with a little bit of care with how you're strumming it and not worrying so much about, the chord changes, if you will. Think about how you're actually playing the chords. Try to get a little bit of a rhythm going. So, how we do that is we want to accent certain parts of the beat, ba-bum, ba, come in a little harder with that strum and then a little softer on other ones. That's how we're going to sound better as a guitar player and create music that's a lot nicer to listen to in the long run. All right, on to the next tip. So this tip has to do with bar chords. Now, any guitar player will tell you that bar chords are not their friend, and usually people don't like learning them, but they are a part of playing guitar, and usually a pretty big part. So it's important that we tackle it eventually. I've got a few tips to help you out, though. So when we play a bar chord, typically when I personally teach people bar chords, we start off with just a typical power chord. So just 2 fingers, and then we'll add in that pinky. And then slowly we kind of add in the rest. So the hardest part about playing a bar chord is to get the bar. So that first finger, it's really hard to get enough pressure to press it along all these strings, which is what you need to do because we need to play these bottom 2 strings with that finger. Excuse me. So a common mistake I find people doing is it's all in the thumb. People think it's all guitar playing is all, in the front 4 fingers. Your thumb plays a huge part in pretty much everything you do. The big mistake I see is when people do a bar chord, their thumb is in the middle, kind of like on the other opposite side of their middle finger. Now, if you can see, I don't have any kind of leverage that way. I can't really create any torque. So, and also I'm just showing you, I don't want my wrist bent like that. It always should be open. But so what we do with a bar chord is we want to have our thumb usually kind of on the outside of our hand here. And that way what that does is you can use your thumb to push against the fretboard to create torque for your pinky and these fingers, especially when we play these bar chords. It's really crucial that you have your thumb as far to the outside that's, comfortable for you so you can get that nice pressure with your pinky. With this one as well, it's not quite as exaggerated, but if you have it in like this, you're going to lose all the power. You want to have your thumb on the outside, and that's going to create a nice pressure point for this finger. So hopefully that'll help you out. And then the other last tip for bar chords is there's a few patterns you have to memorize, but the nice thing is that a major bar chord with the root on our big E string, it's the same shape as a minor bar chord on the A string. So there's a few similarities with things like that. You don't have to learn that many patterns, but the biggest issue is not necessarily learning the patterns, but just getting the strength to make that squeeze. So hopefully that helps you out. All right, that's it for this week's video. I hope those tips are going to help you guys out. And if you guys enjoy these videos, why don't you help me out? Give me a subscribe, give me a like, share with your friends. I'm going to be making these videos every week to help you guys out with your guitar playing. Also going to be doing some gear reviews, some singing, a little bit of everything. So if that interests you guys, come along for the ride, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.